Now before I do that, I was in luck. See, this light still works because it's on a different circuit, so I thought I would turn that one on in order to give us more light. And if you're working in an area and it gets kind of dark, you can try that on your own, or you may have to get a lamp next to your bed or something and an extension cord, plug it in a plug somewhere down the hallway or something, and see if that is going to help you. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. And I don't know if the cover plate's going to come right off or not. Sometimes if they don't, you might have to lightly score it or tap it with your screwdriver or something. Now this one, luckily, it came right off. Sometimes they don't, and if they're stuck, you don't want to just pry it off, because if somebody repainted, let's say, and they painted without taking the cover plates off, you could rip the paper and think, uh-oh, you know, you just messed up the wall. And even if you took the cover plates off, here's a tip for you. If you take all the cover plates off, if you're repainting yourself, I always recommend taking the cover plates off. But before you put the cover plates on, after you get done painting, wait 2 or 3 days until the paint is kind of cured a little bit before putting that cover plate on. Even if you feel the same day you paint it and you feel that, hey, it feels dry, and you put the cover plate on there, once you kind of suck it up to the wall, sometimes it has a tendency to indent into the paint. And then next time you get ready to do something on your switch or electrical outlet or something, maybe it doesn't come off, and you could still rip it off. And so you have to be careful with that. If you have something like that, you take your sheetrock knife, and then I would just lightly score it 1 or 2 places, just sideways a little bit, to try to get the paint off of it, and then carefully remove your cover plate. Okay. So now the next thing I'm going to do, we got screws here, and somebody just used sheetrock screws because they probably had something on there that the screws were stripping or something, but that's okay. I'll reuse these screws, maybe not. We'll just have to see. And then this should come away from the wall. I thought I was going to have to score that, but I don't have to. You pull that out. And this is usually what you're going to see. Two black wires coming out and a copper wire. Lots of times light switches will have the copper ground one on a screw, on a side screw. If you have an older house, maybe you don't have the copper one. Maybe it's already attached to a metal box inside the wall. And see, it looks like whoever installed that, they didn't cut the sheetrock out far enough, or they indented the box, the junction box inside the wall. That's why they ended up using those long screws. And when I get ready to install the new one, chances are I'll end up using those long screws for that. Okay, I still get wary a little bit about making sure that the power is off. And I can see that box. It looks like a 2-gang box, and then they put a 1-gang switch plate on there. Sometimes they'll do that. It looks like when I look back in there, there's more wires back in there. Let me see if I can get you in there. You look way back in there. There's a wire nut. See that yellow wire nut? And that's where all the white wires are connected together. And then this ground wire here might be connected to some more ground wires. But we don't have to mess with that, because we only have to deal with these wires right here. Okay. We'll open up the other switch and I'll see. Most of the time you get light switches and you've got 2 black wires. One black wire is the power coming into the light switch, and then one black wire goes from this box on up to your ceiling light fixture. Okay, and that's generally all there is to that. And I look on the side of there and see if you really wanted to save everything on here. It's kind of hard to see, but I could take my little small screwdriver, and there's a hole there. If I push that in, there should be a spring. I should be able to pull this right out of there. And see, that's how they did this one. They just pushed it into the back. And there's also screws here. They could have wrapped this around the screw, kind of like how they did the ground wire, you know. And if you do it, you have to put it the same direction, wire going the same direction as this screw is tightening in that direction. They should have kinked that together right there for the ground, but they didn't, you know. So generally, if I would have been installing this, I would have taken these screws on the side and just tightened them up, you know, with a screwdriver. If I wasn't using these, see, I would just do that. It doesn't really matter. It's just that this screw is sticking out a little bit. You don't want that to be rubbing anything in there, but generally speaking, it's not going to rub against anything unless you have an old style metal box with the metal plate in there. And if this screw gets too close to anything metal, you know, after you get it turned on, it could short the circuit or something. But I might be giving you too much information, but maybe that's what you need, is just a little bit of information. Okay, I could cut these off and re-strip them, and I'm probably going to have to anyways, but I'm gonna see if I can push that in. It's kind of hard to do this. And there, see, look at that. I got that one out. See there? And I can do the same thing there. And if the new switch has the same thing, I could poke that in, or I'll strip this back and then curly cue it and wrap it around a side screw. On the dimmer switch, we might not have anything like this. See? To put that back in, you just take it, push it in there, and then it clicks. It should click into place like that. Lots of people don't like to use those because sometimes these get loose. See there, look, I just pulled it straight out. I shouldn't be able to do that. And these side screws have nothing to do with that clip. I shouldn't be able to do that at all. And that's why lots of times electricians don't like to use that one, because if it does get loose as they're pushing it back into the box, let's say, if that comes loose, or even if it's slightly short, slightly loose, when you turn the power on, it could vibrate a little bit, and maybe it causes your circuit to trip or cause a spark or something like that. Now, I don't have to really worry about which black wire comes out from the top or bottom, because on your light switch, see, I just pushed that in and I pulled the switch out. There's usually not anything where I have to determine, okay, which one goes up to the light, which one doesn't go up to the light. Usually power is power, but we'll see on the new light switch if there is. I'd have to take a wire tester on it and test it out, whatever. But generally, one black wire goes to one location and one black wire goes to the other. I'm kind of talking ahead of myself, aren't I? Okay, so now all I'm doing is undoing the ground screw, and because they didn't crimp that together, I can just pull that off. See? That's what you're going to have so far on removing a single pole light switch. Now that we got that, we're getting ready to install this dimmer switch. See, you got the on and off here. This is on and off, and then here's your dimmer switch. If you want it high, you leave it up, on, off, and if you want it dim, you can dim it down. If you always want it in the dimmer location, you say, okay, that's perfect right there. You don't have to mess with that ever again. You just turn it on and off there, okay? Now some dimmers don't necessarily have this bottom thing. Maybe it's just a slide. And when it's down almost all the way, you push it just a little bit more and it kind of clicks into the off position. Some people, they think, okay, it's off, and they have it like that, and the lights are still dim a little bit, and you always got power to your light if you don't click that into the bottom position if you have that type of dimmer switch.